back of a truck playing fireman at NASCAR. What he does.
Wait.
He's a volunteer fireman.
Hold on. Let's talk about this on this podcast, please. I don't know what you're talking about.
That's my man.
I need to have you on.
Yes.
This would be perfect. I wanted to see if you would come back again and talk about dating in your 40s and late 40s, early 50s, because I'm also doing a podcast with somebody who's getting divorced now in her 40s.
Isn't that fun?
So now she's going to transition to where you were when you met Cos, right?
Yeah.
So I would love to get your perspective on that.
I was the
too.
single mom at our school. You remember, Kathy?
Yeah.
I was like the single mom at our school for years.
For a long time, yeah.
I was buck that one up, I gotta tell you. It's like,
Yeah, I can't imagine doing that all by
and everybody was
yourself.
giving me like marital advice and what you do, and I'm watching their husbands like walk away shaking their heads, and they're like emasculating their husbands.
Oh,
and I'm
how
like,
funny.
yeah, that looks like this is working out great.
Looks fun. So much fun. I totally want to do that.
And now all of those people, y'all are still married, but all those people are divorced.
Getting divorced,
Are
yeah.
they really?
Yeah, most, yeah, actually.
No way. Really?
Yeah, so many of those parents from back in the day are now, houses are sold and condos are up in their place, and they're.
How old are their kids now? They're our kids' age, right? See,
They
we
are
were
our
talking
kids'
about
age.
like there's like almost a cyclical thing, right?
Yeah,
were
we were
this?
talking about that.
That there's certain points where it seems like there's this rash of divorce, separation, whatever. And what does that have to do with? Does it have to do with kids going through certain phases? Like they're all going into high school now. There's a certain level of like they don't need us as much anymore. So maybe this is an okay time to exit this marriage or whatever.
I can't
you know
stand
what
it
I mean?
anymore.
Yeah.
It took me 5 years to blow up. Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
and
interesting.
we were contemplating, are we recording? Okay, good. We were contemplating, is there like a grade, like when the kids go into middle
Right.
school, like when is there a consistent kind of predictability or not, or does it just happen when it happens? But definitely happens. I mean, right now in our school, well, our previous school, there's like 4 families divorcing, and all at the same
More,
time.
yeah.
And most of them are pretty contentious, and a couple of them, the men are gay. You know, there's like 2 of the 4 of them, the men are now gay,
Surprise!
right?
Yeah.
So then you're like, wow, how does that work for you in your brain as a woman? I'm dying to talk to one of those moms to see. Not to be gossipy. I don't ever want my podcast to be gossipy. That's not the point. But to see there's other people on this planet that goes through stuff like that, where your husband is gay, you've been married forever, and now how do you move forward? I mean, Georgia has a friend whose mom left the marriage because she was gay, and then shortly thereafter got married to her partner, and it threw that young lady into an absolute spiral. I mean, she was in 4th grade, and she was a legitimate mess for a long time. And I don't know if it was directly related
Does that person
to
have the same name as any of us in this room?
No.
Because somebody with a name of somebody of us in this room who's a Facebook friend of mine, like I got this whole announcement. I'm sorry, I totally interrupted you, but I just had to clarify.
No,
And I was like,
no Tracy,
wait,
no Cathy, no Lee.
What?
No.
Wait, what? And I wanted to call her and ask her, I'm like, you know what? It's so none of my business. I need to just go, yay you, congratulations, be happy, and then wonder,
Right.
what have you done to your kids?
Yeah, that's the thing too. You wonder
how you handle
Right, which is
it.
a whole
Yeah.
different perspective than what did you do to the spouse in the relationship, or
Yeah.
you as an individual at the age of 40 finally coming out or whatever, and then what does that do for your kids?
Yeah, when I said
There's
like,
so
what did you
much
do to your
to
kids?
it.
It's like, how did you handle it? You know,
Yeah.
was it
And how were
open
they
and healthy?
handling
Did you
it?
walk them? You know, were you there for them? Because, so confusing.
Well, I know with Georgia's friend, the dad who was left for another woman, right? It had a terrible time, had a really hard time. And I would imagine as a man how that must make you feel, right? But in another way, you think, well, at least she's gay. At least she didn't leave me for another man. You know, I can't compete with that. I mean, maybe for a woman, what can I do? It's not about me, really. It's about my penis and not being interested. So, you know, and partly I wonder if it wouldn't, if your perspective was right, be kind of a relief that if this was
there was
breaking
ego
up.
involved, yeah, right, Kath? I mean, that's more egocentric.
I can't imagine it would be that simple, though.
But why can't it be that? Why can't most things in life be just that simple?
Because
right?
human beings are very complicated and messy.
And emotions are complicated and messy.
They are. And boy, when divorce...
And they don't make sense a lot of times.
No, they don't make sense.
Because they're based on like 20 years ago for the most part. You know, so many emotions are based on what we've been through and reactions to stuff that, I mean, so many times aren't actually in the room with us in the moment. It's like what happened with Uncle so-and-so or Mommy or whatever.
You're right.
It's so complicated, so layered.
You're right.
I'm finding, talking about gender identity, it's coming up a lot in Elizabeth's school.
Is it really?
We had a kid come out as last year bi, now he's not. We have a pangender, a gender fluid, and a non-identifying.
Wait, a what? What? A what?
Keep it up with it, man.
A pan, P-A-N?
All genders, like, so, okay, I may be wrong.
Are there more than two? Genders?
Yeah, because
Well,
there's gender neutral, which would be considered a third gender.
Are you
because
fucking
they don't
kidding me?
Theory.
Do you know more about this than me?
No, I don't, actually.
I
I really don't, but...
read on one of Elizabeth's girlfriend's Instagram, because I monitor her Instagram. Yes, I'm a nosy mommy.
That's okay.
There was like 11 qualified, like 11 flags. They were showing the different colors of the flag, and there's like the rainbow flag, and then there's the gender neutral flag, and then there was the like supporting queer flag, and then I mean there was like 11 different flags, and it was like all the different colors and how they blended into each other, like literally represented color on the color spectrum with flags. And I was like, okay, we need to know about this stuff, you guys, because our kids are getting exposed to it.
Yeah, that is Looney Tune. Hey, I grew up in the gay community. My mother moved me from rural Georgia to the gay community. I love gay people, transgender people. That's awesome. But really, when you have too many choices or categories, it's so confusing. And I think some kids make a choice because they feel like that's the hip, cool thing to do.
Pick a label.
And you're like, why can't you just be a girl who likes a boy? And that not it you know, they're at that age when they're in high school and middle school where they are looking for some sensationalism sometimes. I think certain kids, not all kids, but some kids are looking for that. And if that's what how confusing that has to be for them.
Elizabeth and I have talked long and hard about this. Mom, how do I know if I'm not gay? That's what she actually asked me.
Well, what? Well, why would you think you are?
I said, well, what do you think makes you gay? So we talked about that. And I have a lot of gay friends, and I love gay people as long as they're nice. I don't like, asshole gay people. I don't like asshole straight people.
No.
I just, I like nice people.
Yes,
so
me too.
Elizabeth coming to me saying, what makes you gay? Okay, well, what makes you queer? I still need clarification on that, by the way.
Yeah, what is that? What? There's a difference
Unclear.
between gay and queer?
Right, because queer is not a word you're allowed to use anymore, except you are allowed to kind of use it.
If you
I'm
are
looking it up.
gay.
Okay.
It's kind of like the N-word. Like I can't even say that word out loud.
So if you're gay, you can call yourself queer?
I believe so. But not being in that community spectrum right now. I don't know. But anyways, I talked to her about loving people. You love who you love, and right now it seems like a lot more people are falling in love with people versus gender. Some people still have really strong parameters on it about what they allow themselves to do or not. I don't know. I just had a really dear friend of mine, her daughter's 20, and she came out. Oh my gosh, they're one of the 6th grade kids, a younger kid from one of Elizabeth's friends, just came out last year. How are you in 6th grade? And no, I guess you could. I don't know. I don't wear those shoes, so I don't know.
There's no short answer. I can't find a short answer to the difference. It's like a 5-paragraph answer on the difference between gay and queer. So
is it just like an odd gay person? Sorry,
let's see.
I'm joking.
What's the difference between gay and queer? Question mark.
And this is funny because Leanne goes, the podcasts have been getting heavy lately. We want to do something light.
I know.
Oh,
Honey,
right?
you have no idea what I'm talking about.
Shortcuts.
Kathy and I had a conversation that I haven't figured out how to have appropriately, that this is killing me not to have, because I'm going to have it anyway. It may not be very appropriate, but I'm still trying to figure out gay versus queer. Okay, I'm going to tell you. And I wanted to read
a definite opinion on it.
I want to continue with
I have
gay
less
versus
opinions than I
queer.
used to, by the way.
Oh, it's holy.
Maybe you just don't voice them as much.
No, I voice my opinions more now, but now I'm kind of like, yeah, I don't care.
Yeah.
I care. I really, it's like I'm not,
Right.
I don't think I'm as nice a person as I used to be.
Let's look at the definitions from the official gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender.
That's what we want it from.
And queer. These are the definitions from Vanderbilt University. Hopefully this is, if my internet would go a little fast. Lesbian, women who experience sexual, romantic, physical, and or spiritual attraction to other women. Gay, used in some cultural settings to represent men who are attracted to men in a romantic way. Erotic and or emotional sense. Not all men who engage in same-gender sexual behavior identify as gay. And as such, this label should be used with caution. I don't really understand.
Really? Because that's thrown around a whole lot.
Used in some cultural settings to represent men who are attracted to men in a romantic, erotic, or emotional sense. But not all men identify as gay. Okay, I'm already confused. Bisexual or bi, a person who experiences sexual, romantic, physical, and or spiritual attraction to people of their own gender as well as other genders, not necessarily at the same time, in the same way, or to the same degree. Okay, so I'm bi because I'm attracted to people spiritually. Mm-hmm. Does that make me bi?
If you want to sleep
It's
with
so
me,
interesting
yes.
that gay doesn't use that definition.
Doesn't have anything about sex in bi.
Well, I have fallen
It
in
has
love
sex.
with women.
A person who experiences sex, romantic, physical, and or spiritual attraction to people of their own gender as well as other genders. Well, that means everybody.
Yay!
If you have any connection to anyone,
We're unified again.
I'm so bi. I'm so glad to know that I'm so bi. It's so confusing already, and I'm freaking almost 48.
Well, I have so many gay friends, and growing up in LA had so many gay friends. And I remember, like, in high school, there's like one little part of the quad where the tree where all the drama kids were, and a lot of those boys, not all, were gay, and they were just kind of coming to terms with it. And this is the late 70s. This was a really odd time. A lot of sexual freedom and, figuring out, and AIDS wasn't around yet, and there's tabooness. I don't know. I don't remember what it was, but I just know that they hid it. I can't imagine feeling a certain way and having to hide it your whole life. Having to identify, like, I have brown eyes. Having to hide my brown eyes.
Right.
Having to deny that I have brown eyes.
Oh, it would be horrible.
I believe that this segment of humanity, this part of humanity that's been denied and pushed down for so long, they have to have a struggle to come out and come to terms and fight. And that's why I think they come out so loudly and so strongly, because they've had to fight for equality and recognition and all that good stuff. My stepdad was a cop for 23 years, LAPD, and I remember he said to me once, "Why is it any of my business who somebody else loves? Oh, it's nobody's business."
And
I just thought that was beautiful for a cop. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's so stereotyped.
Yeah.
And then I went, yeah, you know what? That's kind of where I'm at.
That's the truth. It's nobody's business. But if we're talking about, what we started talking about is talking about our kids about this. Talking to our kids about this, I'm already confused.
And that's what I tell Elizabeth. I'm not sure what all of it means. Let's work it out together. When you have questions, come to me.
So then the herein lies the problem. In the society we are living in today, if you're reading these definitions and you're trying to understand them as they are defined, and you make a mistake, it's catastrophic. There's no room for error in society. So if I say to somebody, hey, I see that you have a boyfriend now. So are you queer or are you gay or whatever? Are you gay? And that person doesn't identify as gay, then how could I possibly know that? But I guarantee you the bad guy would be me. It would be me for not already understanding what that person is. In this microaggression world we seem to be in at this moment, that's the way I feel. Is I feel like there's no room for error from that side, from someone like me who grew up in the gay community. And I still am going, well, I mean, obviously I know what a transgender person is. I know basically what these things are, but in the subtleties, in the 11 different flag colors, how in the world can I know that when that is not my world? And not because I don't want it to be my world. It just isn't. It's like saying, I don't understand why you don't speak Chinese. Mm-hmm. Well, because I don't speak Chinese. I'm not Chinese. I have not been exposed to Chinese. So I don't, that piece really bothers me about where we are today, because there's no help from any of these places to help educate someone like me, who is a well-meaning, positive person who would never want to offend anybody. And instead of them reacting, or someone hypothetically reacting and becoming offended, saying, let me help you understand. You know what I mean? That I don't think that happens from any place, from racial point of view, even from the women's movement. In a lot of ways, there are a lot of women who just are out to annihilate men. And if a man says one thing that's incorrect, instead of saying, let me help you understand why that's incorrect, they just kill him. And so nobody wants to say anything.
I don't know. That's Elizabeth asked me if you have to hate men to be a feminist. My kids come up with good questions, don't they?
Your kids are kind of awesome.
And I was like, only if you're a male basher. And we're not male bashers, because I grew up with really abusive, physically abusive, emotionally abusive, rageaholic men. And the women in my family were men bashers. Grandfather, my mother's fiance. So
multiple.
2. 3 would be like multiple. 2's like a couple, right?
Two's enough.
I know. I was fortunate to turn that around and go, yeah, you know what? You're still in the room. If they're beating you and you don't leave, I don't know. There's culpability there. So male bashing, though, like, it was always the men's fault, and they took this victim stance.
Right.
You don't have to hate men to feel good about yourself. Oh, again, you don't have to put people down to make yourself feel good, right?
No. And it's not all men. Like, it's very hard to categorize people like that.
Well, it's kind of like saying, I just don't like it. Somebody said to me, you're prejudiced. I'm like, no. I heard I'm going to say this right. I heard somebody talking about a conversation they had, and somebody said to them, you're prejudiced. And they said, no, I don't like you because you're an asshole, not because you're black. I was like, fair enough, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. This goes in line with what I was talking about with Cathy this weekend, but let's finish these definitions, because I really
and then
want
move on to shortcuts.
We may not talk about shortcuts
Segue
today.
to
I don't know.
shortcuts.
We were supposed to do this podcast about like gadgets and shortcuts.
I love my pressure cooker.
I know. We'll talk about it. If not this time, another time. But this is so much better, right?
Yeah.
So much better. If Halston can stay upright. Poor thing, he's sick as a dog.
Halston's got a shade of green going on right now.
I know.
A little bit.
You're not looking great.
On the edges.
Are you bi? Is that the problem? Suddenly you've turned bi? So no. Okay, transgender. A person who lives as a member of a gender other than that expected based on sex or gender assigned at birth. Sexual orientation varies and is not dependent on gender identity. I'm so confused by that definition.
Wait, I thought transsexual was somebody who lives.
No, this is transgender.
Oh, that's right. Okay, no, I'm confusing.
No, transsexual. No, transsexual is
when you go to the other gender physically.
Holy shit! There's a lot of definitions. Transgender. I'm gonna read it again because I still don't understand it. A person, I got that, who lives as a member of a gender other than that expected, based on sex or gender assigned at birth. So sexual orientation varies and is not dependent on. Okay, now I understand. So they just identify not necessarily as a sex they were born to be, but that doesn't mean that they're not attracted to the opposite of their actual biological sex, right?
Which makes them gay,
or the one that they.
So you can be a transgender and be
heterosexual or homosexual,
right?
So I can be dressing as a man and still be in love with Bert. Wouldn't that be cute? And then I'm not gay because my actual biological gender is female, but I identify as male, and I'm in love with a man, but I'm actually a female, then I am not gay.
But what if you go through the process of becoming a male? Are you then gay because you are now actually living as a male and you're attracted to men?
Fuck, I don't know, Cathy.
I don't know either. I'm asking.
Me neither.
Oh, shit.
So where do you think we got as a society so hung up on gender labels? Like, why does it
hung
matter?
up on labels in general?
Like, I've just started to look, because like I see these young women who are androgynous and they're like beautiful people. I see these young boys who are more feminine looking and they're just a beautiful person. And I'm really kind of to go like, that's just a cool looking person. I'm really working on letting the boy girl thing go because I really don't care.
Well, here's something I think. I don't think the society is hung up on gender. I think there is a small percentage of society that is very loud and they're hung up on gender. I think that's true of a lot of things, like this, the bathroom back and forth bathroom issue of what bathroom do you use, the one you identify with or the one you were born as. There's like the percent of society that actually has this conflict is so small. That someone who's transgender, I don't know what the percentage of population in the United States are transgender or identify as a different sex or need to use a different bathroom than they were born to use, but I bet you it's like 2%. So in society, these issues that are super loud, like the LGBTQ, is that right? Mm-hmm. I think it affects everybody, but at the same time, it really hardcore affects a smaller portion of our society. Because when I go home to Georgia, gay people are not treated the way they were back in the 80s. They're fine. They're just part of life. They're not, to my knowledge and my experience, no one is beaten, persecuted, discriminated against because they're gay anymore, really at all. So that I experience when I go home. Now, I'm sure it happens in somewhere, in places, absolutely. But I don't know. I think it's a very small, loud part of the population that has this agenda, and I'm not sure that the whole population has this agenda. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't. None of my friends do. I wouldn't have a friend that did.
No, I don't have this agenda either. I think do what you're going to do. And I'm not sure why you're going to put a label on it and demand that we understand the label. That's the thing too, is that if I don't understand the demanding of everyone to comply in the way they need it to be complied with. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Acceptance is one thing, but saying, no, you must accept in this fashion, in this manner, and behave in this way is a bit
fascist.
I was going to say it's a bit not American, is it? It is a bit fascist because that's not what we're based on in this country, right? Is the freedom of speech and the freedom of ideas. Fascism. I don't know nothing about fascism, but if you say so, I know it ain't American. So,
I mean, it's kind of, what's the one where you free speech? What amendment is that? 8th, 5th, 2nd? I'm taking the 5th as being quiet. My amendments suck.
Isn't it the First Amendment?
Yeah. First Amendment?
Yeah, the First Amendment is freedom of speech.
Yeah.
See, you tell me about fascism, I'll tell you about the amendment.
Please do.
All right, here's the next one. Trans woman. What? An identity label sometimes adopted by male to female trans people to signify that they are women while still affirming their transgender history. I'm so confused. Wait,
so
what?
So you're a woman on the inside, but you still have a pee-pee?
No,
the other way.
Accepted by male to female trans people. So Jenner,
instead of
Bruce
saying
Jenner,
transgender, they say trans woman.
Yes. So they male to female trans people to signify that they are women,
right, while
still affirming their transgender history.
I don't know what that means.
I don't get it, man. I need some splaining. Okay, trans man.
I actually don't, because like whatever you want to wear, and I don't care. I'm all good, man. I actually don't care. I'm sorry.
Whatever you want to wear.
Yeah, it's like how earrings with that dress, they look great. Go for it. I'm just
Who gives a shit?
Why does it matter?
It doesn't matter.
It matters to them, and like I'm totally affirming their right to live how they want to live without hurting other people. Cool. But I can't put that. I have other things to do.
Yeah, right. Just say it takes up too much bandwidth in my brain. Trans man is the opposite of trans woman.
Okay, so wait a minute.
Okay.
So if you have trans man and trans woman, why do you need the transgender label?
Because maybe they're gender neutral, and then we don't know what's going on. They're wearing a bra with some high top Jordans.
No one knows what's going on.
They're so confused.
God bless them all. No, like seriously, because that's a struggle. That's an internal struggle, and to have to go through that, my heart literally breaks for them. And I'm happy for them when they get into whatever vehicle they want to use for this lifetime, because I just view this body as a vehicle from a spirit.
Yeah.
And God bless them.
All right, here's queer. You ready?
No, I'm not.
I know. I haven't understood anything so far. I just found out I'm bisexual.
Is there a quiz? Just
wait till your husband finds out you're bisexual.
Hey, Bert, I'm bi.
I was going to dig that, by the way.
You know what? My mom has always suspected. When I was young, she was like, "Are you gay?" And I was like, "No,
I'm a strong woman."
She said, "I think, are you sure you're not gay? Because I think you may be gay." And I went, "Pretty sure." Yeah.
Bottles over there, Mom. Keep it up.
Pretty sure. No, she didn't drink. Ever.
Your mom didn't drink?
Oh, fuck no. My mother knew.
Why did I think your mom drank? Apologize, Mom. Sorry.
No.
She was weird in other ways.
No, she has personality disorder and is sociopathic, so whatever. Anyway, queer, a political statement as well as a sexual orientation, which advocates breaking binary thinking and seeing both sexual orientation and gender identity as potentially fluid.
So that's my whole just seeing people thing.
Yes.
It's your what?
My whole just seeing people.
Yes. Yeah.
The term is a simple label I don't think it's simple, to explain a complex set of sexual behaviors and desires. For example, a person who is attracted to multiple genders may identify as queer. Many older LGBT people feel the word has been hatefully used against them for too long and are reluctant to embrace queer.
It has a negative connotation.
It can be used as an umbrella term to refer to all LGBTQI people. What the fuck is I? Now there's an I? What is I? Do you know?
What is I? Wait a minute.
It's got to be in here. Oh, intersex. No?
Both?
That's about sex. I'm so goddamn confused.
Let's talk about sex, baby.
Apparently that's all they talk about is the LGBTQI.
About my pressure cooker.
I know. Okay. Questioning. An individual who's unsure of or exploring their gender identity or sexual orientation. Is that Elizabeth?
Apparently that'd be all of us.
College. It's called college.
It's called college. It's called college.
Comes right after the freshman 15.
Oh, God. Okay.
Or in conjunction with.
Yeah, right.
In conjunction with. Intersex. Intersex is a set of medical conditions that feature congenital anomaly of the reproductive and sexual system. That is, intersex people are born with sex chromosomes, external genitalia, or internal reproductive systems that are not considered standard for either male or female. The existence of intersexuals shows that there are not just two sexes, and that our ways of thinking about sex, trying to force everyone to fit into either male or female, is socially constructed.
Wait, what?
That's what I said, right? I said, why are we so into labor? Sorry, I don't mean to be self-righteous here, but I'm like, I've never heard that before.
Yeah. It's basically saying there is a third sex.
So if you have some sort of mutation,
yeah.
You're an I? That sounds awful, but like I'm trying to...
Well, I don't know if the I is intersex. If you have some mutation, you are...
We're laughing about like something really hard for somebody, you guys.
No, I know. That sounds terrible, but I'm trying to figure it out.
LGBTQI. Well, that's the only I. So I'm assuming intersex. I is intersex is someone who is mutated. Poor person. How confusing that would be. What does that mean? Does it mean you have a penis and a uterus?
Right. That's what I'm trying to wrap my head around.
I think it means
what
you
exactly
have what's the chromosome for women? X or Y?
I don't know. One of them.
Wait, so you have the woman chromosome, but you have the male genitalia. I don't know how that happens. You could get flushed in testosterone in utero, and maybe that would promote.
So it's both.
Maybe
like you have both.
You're like one on the inside and one on the outside.
So you're chromosomally female.
Then you get to pick.
But physically male. And you get to pick? I don't think you get to pick if you have a penis.
You know what blows me away? The women who go to men and then have babies. You see that woman? I don't.
How do they do that?
Should they still have a uterus? They didn't get
Wait,
rid of the uterus.
what?
Yeah, but don't you have to in transgender process? Don't you have to sort of move away from that? No.
I'm guessing there's not a lot of rules on it.
Okay, fair enough.
Not a lot of rules, clearly. Can you put my penis on my elbow? It would be so much more convenient on my elbow.
But no, there was a woman who went male and married a woman, and they had, and that was the piece that got me. So why didn't the woman who stayed gender female have the baby? But it made for better headlines for sure. But the male, and whoever's listening to this knows that somebody's heard about this,
right?
But yeah, like it was like the man who had a baby, and I was like, what? And
are you sure that wasn't on the National Enquirer?
That's like Xander. I saw it on YouTube.
Then it must be true. It's got to be true on YouTube.
I saw it like on the news. I saw it on. It was valid. It was a valid source.
That's crazy.
Y'all gonna look it up now?
Did Siri tell you about it?
No. Alexa told me.
Okay, asexual, a person who does not experience sexual attraction. They may or may not experience emotional... Oh, shut up. They may or may not experience emotional, physical, or romantic attraction. Asexuality differs from celibacy in that it is a sexual orientation, not a choice. People who are asexual may call themselves ace.
Ace.
I am so ace.
So now we have to stop calling people ace. Hey Ace,
apparently.
how you doing? Because there's a whole new meaning to me.
Because we do that all the time.
Ace.
Aromantic.
Aromantic?
Oh, is it aromantic? I was looking aromatic.
That means it smells good.
That's what I was thinking. What word is this? Aromantic. A person who experiences little or no romantic attraction to others. See, I mean, no offense. This is going to sound really offensive, but no offense intended. A lot of this sounds like personality disorders. Like a lot of this sounds like a mental disorder. Like someone who doesn't feel attraction to another person. Isn't that some kind of other kind of disorder?
You got a big old stick in your hand poking that wasp nest right now.
I know, but I mean, I'm just asking. I'm asking because... I think
some people who have that probably have that, but I think maybe some people... Maybe it's not. Maybe it's a combination of both.
I wonder because, people who have eating disorders typically have a personality disorder. My mother, I grew up with someone with a personality disorder, and there are certain parts of the human emotions that are not connected. They're not connected. Sex was not one of them for her. She was super hypersexual. But I just wonder. I wonder if that's not a piece of the puzzle. Maybe not the whole puzzle, but maybe a piece of it because... We don't know anything about the brain, not really.
Literally.
We don't know nothing. And I don't know. It just came to my mind because there's a lot of labels here. Okay, heterosexism. Prejudice against individuals and groups who display non-heterosexual behaviors or identities. Combined with the majority power to impose such prejudice. Usually used to the advantage of the group in power. Any attitude, action, or practice backed by institutional power that subordinates people because of their sexual orientation. Heterosexism. It's like racism, I guess, but...
Also known as assholes.
Also known as assholes, yes. You just lump them all under assholes. Okay, all right, here's another one I don't know how to pronounce. Cisgender? C-I-S gender? Someone who feels comfortable with the gender identity assigned to them based on their sex assigned at birth. Oh, that's me. Right?
Yeah, I'm perfectly fine.
You need a label for
Comfortable with the gender... Exactly! Comfortable with the gender identity assigned to them based on their sex assigned at birth. Like, I'm cool being a girl.
Right.
So I guess, though, if you think about it, if you're going to start defining all these different nuances of human sexuality and self-reference for who they are as human beings, right? We can't then assume that a woman feeling comfortable as a woman is the default, and it would also need a label.
I see.
Right. No, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
But
because then we're defining all, and we're not just saying this is normal, because the whole point of all of this, I believe, is for everybody to say, it's all normal, because we're redefining normal.
Yeah. I don't know how comfortable I am with that redefinition completely. I'm having a hard time with some of it.
I think that when you put that many labels, there's someone who's not going to fall into a category and they're going to feel left out again.
So we need a label for that.
Yeah. Like that is, I get where you're coming from, but I don't know that that's the way to go.
I hear you. I mean, I'm all about just like people. You're a
people.
person.
Yeah.
You're a human being. You're a dog.
Now, someone will say, I don't identify as a person. I identify as a rat. You know? You go, okay.
Well, and then we have the whole, what are they called? Fluffies? Plushies? Those people who like to wear the...
Yes. Yes. Oh, you don't know about this?
No.
Oh my God. There are people who dress like in full like
little pony costumes.
And like onesies, like what our kids wear to sleep in.
Like not on Halloween.
But they'll dress up in like the legit kind that looks like they're going to Disneyland, working at Disneyland like a character.
Yeah.
And they fuck.
And that's the only way they get sexually aroused.
As if they're dressed as a character.
Well,
so what is their label? Fluffy?
Fucked up.
Now, why would we say that? I just backed up. One more, last definition. LBGTQI ally. Someone who confronts heterosexism, anti-LGBTQIA. Now we have an A.
What's
Does the list just keep getting bigger as you're reading it? Like they just keep adding stuff?
It's like the alphabet gets...
I don't understand what the A is now. Now I don't know the I. Oh, maybe asexual.
Right?
Okay.
I would guess.
Okay, so someone who confronts heterosexism, anti-LGBTQIA. What can we call that? Ligbitqui. Ligbitqui? Biases, right? Heterosexual and cisgender privilege in themselves and others, believes that heterosexism, homophobia, biphobia, and transphobia are social justice issues.
Injustice or justice?
Social justice issues.
That they are issues.
Oh, okay.
Like by confronting people who believe that it's not an issue, you are an ally of the alphabet.
Of the alphabet.
I'm a big fan of the alphabet.
Letter of the day.
Yeah, actually, yeah. There's a song.
LGBTQIA. Yes. Letter of the day.
That alphabet.
All right. So I'm definitely I don't know that I'm an LGBTQI ally. I don't know that I don't think I could pick that up as a social justice warrior. I think people are people. And I think you're right. I don't see any need to get all nutty about it if we just accept that people are people. Let them do what they're going to do.
And if everybody felt that way, then they wouldn't need to get nutty about it.
Right.
Right. Well,
they're fighting. They're fighting the fight. I get it.
That is the problem.
And not everybody thinks that way.
Yeah.
So Cathy and I this weekend, I was talking to Cathy about this issue. And I was trying very hard to figure out a politically correct way to discuss it. And
we're definitely not doing the light podcast.
Yeah, I don't think we're doing the gadgets.
We're not doing
okay?
the light podcast. Okay, just to get
sorry.
that out. No, it's okay.
Is that okay? Are you okay?
There will be a pressure cooker podcast. Though,
there will be pressure cooker.
I made a beef stew last night that was like
off cooking right now.
The chart.
I need
Mine took 40 minutes.
Shut up in a pressure cooker?
Well, mine's in a crock pot. So
you're changing my format.
Sorry.
I know that's where we were.
Okay,
Cathy,
you were having a
go
conversation last week that you were having a tough time.
This has stuck with me, and I don't even
know. Has it stuck with you?
It has, because I don't even know what to say about it.
How funny is it going to be if I just shut up after you guys bring this up? I'm going to go, oh, no.
What? Anyway, I didn't read this article. I only read part of it. Bert told me about this article, and it made me really upset. I have to say, I had not planned on talking about this today. We were going to talk about pressure cookers and gadgets that help us in the kitchen and life.
This is another form of pressure.
This is another form of pressure. So I had wanted to read this article before talking about it, but
too late.
In the article, it basically said the term white trash can no longer be used because if you use the term white trash, you're implying anyone other than white trash is also trash. And then there's white people who are not trash. And I thought that was the most ridiculous statement
say that again,
I have ever heard.
It took me so long to even comprehend what this...
Okay, first of all, I use the term white trash freely. I'm going to continue using it.
Oh, you can't anymore. No. It's as bad as the N-word.
Bring it.
To black people. It is this is what my understanding of this was.
Right, exactly.
Wait, what happened to cracker? Like,
well,
is cracker
white
still
trash
bad?
is derivative of cracker.
Right.
Cracker was the first one, and then white trash is derivative of that. So if you are saying, if you call me white trash, right, you are basically saying I am white trash, and everyone else who is not white is also trash.
So I just have to call you trash?
And then I guess maybe just trash. But I was looking up the definition of white trash. And white trash says it's white people from Appalachia who are poor, right? That's me. I'm a white person from Appalachia that was poor. And that one step below that is trailer trash, which are white people who live in trailers and have questionable morals. I lived in 5 trailer parks.
And have questionable morals.
And well, sometimes I have questionable morals, for sure. But I was like, how in the world did they string that to offending black people by calling a white person white trash? I do not understand it at all. And it made me go, all right, I'm done with this political correct, Black Lives Matter. All lives matter. My life matters. You know how many trailer parks I lived in? I lived in 5. You know how many black people lived in those trailer parks? None. I never saw a black person in my trailer park. I never knew of any black person trailer park. Like it was not segregated where only white people lived in this trailer park and black people didn't live in trailer parks when I grew up. They lived in houses, like with 2 or 3 generations in certain sections of town by choice. It wasn't even like you can't come over here. People who'd lived in my hometown had lived there for literally hundreds of years. So they stayed on the land their families had owned, right? It wasn't about, well, I think I'm going to go across town and buy something new. Why? You just inherited 80 acres. Why would you move? It wasn't about segregation. From my experience of it. But I got so upset by that statement because I thought, so now we have no safe place at all to talk about anybody with a difference in culture. It is a fact that black people have a different culture than Mexican people, that have a different culture than Chinese people, and they have a different culture than white people.
Or Italian. I'm Italian.
And Italian people.
Culture, background, history,
you can
family.
just list what they serve at Thanksgiving and see a huge difference culturally in all of these places.
Also geographically, which can tend to the culturally. So this is funny, and I said it, and I get why this resonates with you, but sometimes people go so far with this insult offense thing that it's, I don't care. And I don't have an opinion on it because it's silly.
It's ridiculous. See, I felt that way until this. And I don't know what it is about this particular thing.
Your history, this resonates with you personally. Why? I mean, I get it.
But at a certain point, I started thinking, why are we so adversarial about everything? Why are you now saying white trash is basically saying that black people are bad, that are also trash? I can't even string those 2 thoughts together.
But if somebody wants to take on a ridiculous label to turn it around to be offended by it, it seems like they have more problems than that.
That's what I think. But no one's addressing that. No one's saying, well, maybe it's your problem, that you have a problem with this term that has nothing to do with you or your culture at all. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Of all the things going on in our country, is really, that article needs to be written. I think it was in the New York Times.
Did you guys see that Facebook post that said, do you hear Laurel or Yanni? Oh, wait, no. Did you hear that Flint, Michigan has no water, or that Puerto Rico still doesn't have electricity?
Right.
It's like, come on, shut up.
Totally. There's so much more to be discussed about the black community and the trouble that community is in internally than the term white trash. You know, there's so many black men, in particular, black people in jail, and that's a crime, in my opinion. A lot of those guys are hopeless and don't know what to do with themselves, and they get involved in criminal activity because they're oppressed and repressed, and that should be the conversation, you know? How do we have an intact family for them? Because statistically, they don't usually, as a culture, have intact family, mom and dad at home. Statistically, that's not the normal for the majority of the black community, and that is damaging. So how do we talk about that and not be considered a racist as a white person who says, hey, you know, Mexican families typically have 2 parents in the household. So do Chinese families. So do white families. Not all of them. But as a norm, that's a norm. But in your culture, that's not a norm. And is that causing some of the problems that you are feeling oppressed by the rest of us for? Is there any responsibility on your part for that? Not saying there's no responsibility on my part, but there's responsibilities on your part too. Instead of saying, well, you can't use white trash. All police are bad.
I can use white trash. I am white. I can call another person white trash. I don't feel like not being black gives me the insight to what it's like to be black,
of
to be
course
raised
not.
in the black community, or to use the N-word.
Exactly.
Like, won't do it.
No.
But white trash, that's mine. Sorry.
But they're saying if in that article,
they can say whatever they want. I really don't give a shit.
I know, but my point is not that. I don't give a shit either, because I'm going to keep saying white trash because I am white trash and my whole family's white trash, right?
No,
Fine.
I don't see you as white trash. I see you as a little
Well,
Southern.
not now.
Oh, okay. But your family's not white trash. I take offense to that.
Well,
How dare you call yourself white
if you
trash?
label us by the definition, poor people in Appalachia, it applies. But I mean, there's a couple of
so not
cars
like your
with
girls
no
and
tires.
Bert, but like your family that's still in Appalachia is what
The
you're
one that have
I thought you were
like
talking
Mountain Dew
about
mouth and they lose all their teeth because they only drink Mountain Dew, like that. Yeah.
Sofas on the front porch.
Yes, exactly.
That's my stereotype
4
of-
hound dogs in the yard,
Yeah,
all
I
covered
love
in
hound
ticks.
dogs. Ew.
And, a car on blocks, no tires, that stays there for 8 years.
Yeah.
That's definitely part of my family. Not all of my family, but part of it.
I drive through parts of an area that's just north of us sometimes, and I'm like,
White trash.
woo!
Yeah, exactly. I forgot my what I was
I'm
saying
sorry.
before. No, that's okay. I don't remember what I was talking about, but
I think sometimes it's easier to have these little flare-ups instead of having the genuine conversation about what's really going on in our culture. I think people aren't willing to sit down and have the hard conversation about racism. Why is it the way? Why are people feeling that way? Why in this day and age are people still being oppressed because of their gender identity or their skin color or whatever?
Right.
That's a really hard conversation.
Yeah.
It's much easier to be like, you can't use the word white trash anymore. Like,
yeah.
It's kind of like
I don't
that
know.
movie
It's-
about having the fake war to like promote the. It's like we have all these diversions and these tactics of avoiding the issues.
Yeah.
Maybe subconsciously, even maybe they don't even know they're doing it. Who knows? You know, it's a tantrum of sort to me.
It is a tantrum of sort. You're right. And I think if we could find a way, and most of my friends are this way already, so I don't understand why. If most of my friends are this way already, why aren't we in a better place? Most of my friends are givers, and they want to help, and they want to say, how can I help? Like, what's going on and how can I help? But I don't think we're like that anymore as a society. Back in the days and days ago, even when it was in segregation time, there was help. Like my grandfather's all-white church would help the black community, even though they were segregated. And I'm sure there were things behaviors they did that were racist. I'm sure, because it was the time. But at the same time, if there was someone in need, they helped them, And I feel like that piece is missing a little bit today in these different sects of society, in the LGBTQIA community, as well as the black community, as well as the immigrant community that need help. They need help staying here if they want to stay
that's
here.
missing across the board.
That's what I mean. It's everywhere.
We don't have those type of communities
No.
anymore, where a town really is seen as a community.
Yeah.
Nowadays, everybody's got a fence around their property.
Yep.
Nobody knows their neighbors. Like, it's very different than when certainly I grew up. I think people are much more insular, and that idea where you should help people is not across the board anymore. We've lost that.
And why do you think that is? Because I think if that were back in place, if we've gone through the civil rights movement, we've gone through all these great things on paper is great, right? But now in practice is not really great, because we have all these negative race relations going on. So even though we are equal, so to speak, we're not acting equal. Nobody's acting equal. You know what I mean? They're all acting divisive and divided and not cohesively. Do you know what I mean? So why?
I have this thought going in my head and it's just not gelled yet.
It's just not what?
Gelled. I have this little seed of like this light of, okay, wait a minute. And it has something to do with everybody feeling like again, it's in there. It's in there, but it's not coming out yet. It's like the groundhog on Groundhog's Day. So it used to be everybody in the U.S. was a little more cohesive in beliefs and thoughts and religion, and there was kind of this blanket over everything, right? Mm-hmm. And then all these cultures started coming up with wanting their beliefs and rights to be as equal as that. Mm-hmm. And so we've got this whole political correctness thing going on, mm-hmm. to the point where, as my son said, well, Mom, how can everybody be right? And so if we're all divided and feeling like I need to protect my right to feel how I want because other people are telling me I don't get to, mm-hmm. I am going to get more insular and I'm going to emotionally withdraw because I feel like I need to protect myself all the time. And again, I don't know if this is right or not. This is just like, I've thought about it, but I've never really tried to verbalize it before.
Right.
And, when did it start where somebody else's belief got so, like, I want the American flag to be flown because this is America. Mm-hmm. Why is it that somebody else who's come to this country is offended by that flag gets to say that flag comes down? Like, where do the beliefs intermingle or conflict? And I think we're in a state of flux right now, mm-hmm. where we have like 9 different heavy duty belief systems, mm-hmm. that are colliding, and there's really nowhere to go. So I think we're kind of withdrawing. Then you put the whole terrorist thing on top of it and the fear of the bombs, because we have it in our head, you guys. We do. The shootings, mm-hmm. the bombs, America used to be really naive and arrogant, where we thought no one could touch us. And September 11th dissolved that. And I really believe that's when a lot of this started coming up, because we are at fraction with one another as a country. And we used to be more united. That just came out of nowhere. I have no idea.
Yeah, I think we did used to be more united. And, even mm-hmm. I remember listening to my grandfather talk about stuff in the news that he didn't agree with and stuff. And then I would hear it discussed also in the community. But there was a discussion. I don't think that happens anymore either. You either watch Fox or you watch CNN.
Again,
and it's not discussed.
And like, I remember my parents sitting down and watching the news.
Yeah.
Like, it was an event.
Yeah. Like every day.
You weren't bombarded every 3 minutes with your phone going off with some new message or whatever. Like, it was something where you sat down and you had a conversation. You listened to it together. It was more of a community event.
Yeah. Everybody did it at the same time of day.
Yes.
Right? Everybody was watching the news at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
6 o'clock news. 5 o'clock news, 6 o'clock news. That definitely doesn't happen anymore. I was saying to Cathy, I find this fascinating. When I first moved to LA, I was flipping the channels and I saw something on public access station, a local public access station. It was an older black man. He was probably at the time in his late 50s, just like from the shoulders up, talking into the television. So I sat down to see what he was saying. I didn't know what he was saying. And he said he was talking about the state of the black community in this country at that time. And this had to be almost 20 years ago. And he had this theory that I thought was really fascinating. His theory was that desegregation had to happen, should have happened. But what happened when desegregation happened was all the black communities started shopping at white stores and calling white plumbers and having the white electrician and going to the white movie theaters. And they stopped propagating in black-owned businesses. So that caused the collapse of the middle class in the black community because they wanted equality. So in wanting equality, they went into the white community. Instead of there being white community coming into the black community going into the white community, that didn't happen. The whites stayed static and the blacks gravitated to the white community.
And promoted that population.
And promoted that middle class.
Yeah.
So the collapse of the middle class happened because of desegregation and because he was talking about now in hindsight how the leaders in the black community should have said, like, it would have been great if they had said, hey, don't leave your dry cleaner. Just ride the bus wherever you want to ride the bus. And if you are in the white part of town and you want to go into the store and have an ice cream, fine. But keep going to the black doctor, black, plumber, all these middle class people. And I thought, what a fascinating perspective. I think he may be partly right, that may be part of what happened. Because if you think about back when my dad was in high school before desegregation, they did have to have a full standing community that had nothing to do with anyone but their community. Mm-hmm. And it was thriving. And all the people who thrived within that context, what would they do? Is not to say I highly doubt that white owners were like, yep, let's hire all the black people from, come over here. That wasn't, I don't think the temperature of society was not quite there.
Right. It wasn't integration.
No.
It was just desegregation.
Exactly.
And that is the problem.
That's exactly right. It wasn't integration. And how do we come at it today if someone had that knowledge that we didn't integrate, we just desegregated? Is a great way of saying that. How do you fix that? How do you fix that? Do you invest in the education of the black community at a middle class level? Like, hey, we'll pay for you to go to school to be a plumber, x-ray technician, middle class job, and replace that part of society that collapsed? Would that be a good place to start to help people? Because their community is in crisis in a lot of ways. I really feel that it is. And as a person who cares about people, I a lot of times go, how do we as a society help them? How do we help them? They need help. They need mentoring, or they need education, or they need some kind of hope or path that a lot of these kids that just start selling drugs right off the bat, in urban communities, it's because they don't know what else to do. They don't have the mentors or the path laid out for them. They don't know what to do. So, I don't know. I thought that guy I was like, wow, I've never heard that perspective. I've never thought of that perspective. And I've never heard anyone else speak about it before or since. Nobody. Yeah. And all these people who are so learned in that community and what they're going through, why that hasn't been discussed. Say, hey, we as America left them, blacks and whites. We left them. And how do we grow that again? That middle class, Any ideas?
It's fascinating.
Any ideas?
It's a fascinating theory. I mean, I don't know how we fix that. I don't know how 40 years later or whatever, but that's a really interesting perspective.
It is an interesting perspective from somebody in the community who clearly, he was in his late 50s 20 years ago. He was clearly in the middle of the desegregation of civil rights.
So I've got a controversial thought.
Okay, let's have
it. Where's the philanthropy from the members of the community that succeed, putting back into those communities that need help?
You mean within the black culture?
Yeah.
I wonder that too,
Because I know that She Who Shall Not Be Named has put a lot of PR and a lot of money into clean water in Africa and schools for girls.
Totally.
Do I see a lot going into Harlem? Do I see a lot going into Compton?
Right.
I haven't heard, and it may very well be.
Right.
Kaepernick, when he kneeled, I was the big one going, okay, kneel all you want, but then step up and address the issues that you're protesting. And a lot of my black friends took great offense to me in saying that. I went, I just don't know about it. I'm not saying he didn't. I'm saying, if you're going to do that, then actually do something about it as well.
Right.
So philanthropy, support. I know that there's a lot of, scholarships and jump up programs and stuff inner city, but we can't care more about helping them than they care.
Right. You're right. Yeah, that's a good perspective. I used to say, I don't understand why Bill Cosby doesn't do more. Well, we found out why.
He was busy.
Yeah,
he was
doing something else.
But I kept saying that. Someone like Bill Cosby needs to help pull that community up.
Tyler Perry, where are you? You know?
I don't know what they could definitely mentor. They could definitely,
and maybe they do.
Maybe they do.
Maybe they do. And I don't know about it because they're not getting the PR that other people have gotten.
Right.
But yeah, it's super broke and it's tragic.
It is tragic.
It's generational and it's handed down generational, and these kids are dragged into it. I know there's a lot of people out there trying to help, but not at the scope or the level I think economically that is going to be effective. But again, if they don't want to change, you can give them all you want. It's still, and I say they, I'm not talking about the whole community. I'm just talking about individuals.
If a person doesn't want to change, there's nothing you can do. Yeah, that's true for any race, culture. If someone doesn't want to change, they're not going to. Hillary Clinton had this plan back when Bill was in office to invest heavily in the middle class, to have a 5-year plan through welfare that was like a 2-year degree paid for while you were in school, childcare paid for, still on food stamps or whatever support you need to feed your family and to pay your rent. And then you got 3 years of childcare, home payment support to get yourself really established in the career in which you have trained. And then you don't get any more welfare. So it was a really expensive in the beginning program that she tried to propose that did not go far at all because it was too expensive. But I thought something like that actually is probably what needs to happen, because there are a lot of people in that community who do want to change and who don't have a path. And I was just listening to NPR this morning talking about how difficult it is for minorities to be strapped with student loans, because a lot of minorities want to go into a more middle class career, and those careers sometimes can cost as much as other careers at the same college. So then they leave their college with this astronomical debt that can never be repaid for a middle class job. And how do we it leaves them no path. They have no path. So what am I going to leave school with $100,000 in debt? It'll take me my whole life to pay that off as a teacher. Yeah. As a plumber. Well, maybe not as a plumber, but you know what I mean. Not as a plumber. 1 year is gone.
Not in LA, that's for sure.
Yeah. Not in LA. But I thought that is an interesting perspective. If we're encouraging people to enter middle class jobs, then we have to make that really attainable and very desirable. How do you make that really desirable? I want to do that. I know in my high school, we had a bus that left after first period and went to vocational school and stayed there until lunch. And those kids that went to vocational school learned a vocation. And when they left high school, they either needed a tiny bit more training or could start in the job that they trained for in high school. So like you could go and learn to be an x-ray technician, and the day you graduated from high school, become an x-ray technician. It's a path, a clear path. And that path doesn't exist in my high school anymore. They don't do that anymore. And I was like, that's part of the problem. If it's part of public education, to do some of that work through the public education system, then they've already ahead of it as far as being able to afford to pay for more technical school, more vocational school, a 2-year degree. They've already gotten a lot of that taken care of on our dime. And those kids were never going to go to college. They didn't want to go to college. My boyfriend in high school wanted to be an electrician. His grandfather was an electrician. He wanted to be an electrician. He's about to retire, and he's 49.
Good for him.
Because
that's awesome.
He's an electrician. He's been one since right out of high school.
His butt off.
And he worked his butt off, and he had a plan, and he had a path.
So do you think we just have too many people that we're supporting? Because you have only so much money going into a bucket. If you have more money going out of that bucket and you're constantly playing catch up, as in the national debt, where's the money coming from? It's like there's got to be a limit of, if you put in, then you get to take out.
Right.
But we as taxpayers, we can't support everybody.
No.
It's not realistic.
It's not
physically possible.
No, it's not.
So we're running out of money because there are too many people.
Are we running out of money because there are too many people, or are we running out of money because it's misappropriated?
Educational, you know what? Yeah.
It's misappropriated, I think.
So too much is going to the military?
I think that's everybody's going to the military.
That's everybody's big.
I don't understand the budget. I don't think
anybody understands
right?
the budget.
But I think that's part of the
including the people in charge of the budget.
Exactly. I think that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
Is that no one really understands the budget. Like I was watching.
Maybe there isn't a budget.
Well, we're clearly not sticking to it. We're like trillions of dollars over budget.
So there's really no budget if you don't do it.
Right?
Right.
Doesn't matter.
I can have a budget all I want.
But if you don't follow it, it doesn't
there's
matter.
no budget.
No. Well, I was watching Bill Maher the other day. And he was talking to somebody, I don't remember who, some guy running for Senate who's already a senator, and he's an economist. I don't remember his name, but he was talking to him about this budget approval they just finished, where the Pentagon asked for 5 widgets, whatever it is, 5 whatever, something for national security. Asked for 5. And the Senate said, no, we're going to give you 12. And Bill Maher was like, why would you do that? They're only asking you for 5. And he said, well, we know better than they do what they need, and they need 12. And I went, that is the biggest crock of shit I've ever heard. If they ask for 5, then you let them do their job. Right. They want 5, give them 5. Why are you giving them 12? The cost of those 12 could then be put into education, put into mental health, put into whatever else we need.
Well, I know, like, what I'm doing. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it's so fascinating that here's this department and you don't trust their judgment. This is what we need. If they're saying this, these are the experts.
Yeah.
Like they got there. They're at the top for a reason.
I know that, like, when I'm as an executive recruiter, I'll have somebody call me and say, I need to fill this position before the end of the year or I'm going to lose it. I'm allocated a certain amount of money, and if I don't use that amount of money for what it's allocated for, I'm going to lose it next year.
Yeah.
So maybe they were budgeted for 12 and they had to buy 12 so they can make sure they could have 12 next year.
But that's ridiculous.
Oh, it's insanity.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's awful. I think the whole government needs to be daved, where somebody comes in and just gets a regular account that still has a chung thing where they poke the buttons and chung and figures the shit out. Because that, I was like, that's one item in the budget that they said we need 5. No, you're getting 12. What else in that budget is like that?
Everything.
And if you just take that, but really, if you just cut it and take all that excess and put it somewhere else, why does it matter next year? What if we don't need any of it next year? Then don't give them the money for it. Doesn't mean you can't have the money back if you need something. Why does it have to mean that? Mm-hmm. If I don't spend it, I don't ever get it back? That's ridiculous. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. My chickens are fighting.
Are they okay?
No, one of them's on the nest. There's 2 nesting boxes, and they will only use one, and it's whatever one the first chicken is in. So Charlotte is standing on the ladder, screaming probably at Henrietta, who is on the nest because she wants on that same nest, and she won't go to the nest next door. There's 2 of them. So she could just go to the nest next door and lay, but Charlotte is screaming at Henrietta.
So people are more like chickens than we thought.
You have no idea. They did this experiment.
They get on their soapbox.
I heard this TED talk about this guy who is in like corporate effectiveness or something like that. And he did this experiment with chickens where he created 2 flocks of chickens. One flock that just produced an appropriate amount of eggs. Nothing insane, but all the chickens in that flock were producers. There was no they were all about the same rate. You know,
no
5 eggs a week. No slacker, but no exceptional chicken either. And then he created a flock of exceptional chickens that were like high producers, like 7-8 eggs a week. Every chicken was a high producer. And after a month, the production of the status quo chickens was improved across the board. And the super chicken flock, he called it, only 3 were left. The rest of them had been pecked to death and were killed because they were so competitive They could not deal with some other chicken being better than they were. And they were so hyper competitive as a flock that they pecked each other to death. And there were 3 of them left by the end of the experiment. So his theory is balance. You have to have balance. Balance makes everything productive. All this intensity and competitiveness is destructive. And he didn't expect those results. He expected the super chickens to be even more super chicken and some dissension to be in the status quo flock. I found that fascinating, just fascinating. And he said you can apply all of this to human behavior. It's directly applicable because chickens are, a pecking order is real. It's not made up. It's real. Like Charlotte is the number 1 chicken, and then Lucy, and then Henrietta. And if Charlotte is removed, Lucy's kind to Henrietta. If Charlotte is present, Charlotte and Henrietta and Lucy beat up on Henrietta. And it's
bitches.
They're awful. It's Charlotte. She's the one. If you remove her, it's much calmer. But aren't we that way as personalities? Why can't we all just be the status quo chicken that just goes, we're all in this together. We're all going to lay eggs at the end of the day. Does it matter if we do 5 or 8? Because at the end of the day, if we're all laying 5, you get more eggs than half the fucking flock dead.
Yeah, and if I've laid 5 and you need a little help to lay 1 more, that doesn't take away from my 5.
Exactly. Good for you on this day.
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
Now, if we could only apply that to LGBTQIA,
LMNOP,
and LMNOP, and the black community.
And the budget.
And the budget, yeah. Boy, this was not a light podcast today, was it? This was heavy. I was expecting we were going to talk about pressure cookers and food choppers and shortcuts. Oh, well.
Wowzers. Yeah.
Well, thank you for your insights. I'm going to start wrapping it up. Any closing statements for you guys? Anything closing? Any thoughts?
Can't we all just get along?
Right. Right. Wouldn't that be nice?
Should we change our theme song to Why Can't We Be Friends? Why Can't We Be Friends? Right? Well, thanks for talking about this. I know not all of it was super PC. Maybe not super.
Any of it?
Any of it, right?
We pretty much offended everybody today.
Well, who did we leave out?
Puerto Ricans.
Should we talk?
No, I talked about Puerto Rico.
You did?
Yeah, there's no electricity in Puerto Rico.
Oh, you did?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
In Flint, Michigan, we got them.
We didn't talk about the Russians. Rats.
Does anybody talk about them anymore?
Everybody in media is talking about the Russians all the damn time.
Wowzers.
Anyway, to wrap it up, none of us, I know you two fairly well, have any intention of offending anybody. So if anyone was offended by this podcast, that was not the intention. The intention was to have a healthy discussion about stuff that is going on in our society right now. So
I think our whole point was don't be offended.
Don't be offended because there's nothing offensive about life.
And sometimes when you say something, it's not meant to be offensive. It's out of non-understanding,
right,
or trying to gain a better understanding.
And maybe if we could look at why we get offended and get a better understanding of ourselves,
right,
we would have more peace in this world.
True. Well, thank you, ladies, for discussing. I appreciate it.
Peace
and
out.
We'll have to do another podcast now about gadgets.
Go gadget.
Go gadget. See you next time.